recording, and we're gonna screen share. This is like Warrior Hour 44, I think. Holy crap, right? Let me make this bigger. Maybe. Love you. Did you get your string cheese already? Is it good? Okay. Are we ready? Got a notebook, paper, pencil.
So the chances are you've looked in at least one mirror today. You had a shave, or you combed your hair, or maybe you checked your teeth for spinach after lunch. But what you didn't know is that the face looking back at you is the face that everybody else sees. It's a kind of reversed, distorted, back to front image. So some years ago I was on a flight to New York and I read an article in the FT, and it was an article about a phenomenon called a true mirror. And for the Americans listening, that's a mirror. So the true mirror was actually invented by a brother and sister team in New York called John and Catherine Walters. And what they discovered was that if you take two mirrors and you put them together at right angles and you take the seam away, the images bounce off each other. And what you see when you look in a true mirror is exactly what other people see when they look at you. So I land in New York and I phoned John up and asked him if I can go and see him. And I end up in his gallery in Brooklyn. And it was like being a sideshow in the circus. There were true mirrors, full length, face size, all over this gallery. And when I walked over to the true mirror for the first time and I looked in the mirror, it was one of the most disorientating experiences I've ever had in my life. The first thing you notice when you look in a true mirror is that your head's not on straight. So yours is kind of going that way, and yours is quite straight actually, and yours is going that way a wee bit. So apparently most of us tilt our heads one way or another. So when you approach a true mirror, the first thing you try and do is fix your head, but of course because it's reversed you go the wrong way. So it's very, very disorientating. But more importantly, I had a flashback. And I had a flashback to when I was a wee girl. So I grew up in Glasgow. In case you haven't noticed, I am Scottish. But I grew up in Glasgow, and my mum, when she was putting her makeup on, I used to love sitting watching my mum putting her makeup on, you know, with my chin in my hands. And I would tell her occasionally, isn't it funny how one side of your top lip is higher than the other side of your top lip? And she'd look in the mirror and she'd say, it is not. And I say, no, it's only a couple of millimetres, but that side of your cupid's bow is definitely higher than the other side of your cupid's bow. She'd say, Caroline, you're havering. And when I looked in the true mirror, there was the lip that I had been wearing at that time for maybe 45 years, and I'd never seen it. So the difference is when you look in a regular mirror, you look for reassurance. You look for reassurance that you're beautiful, or you're young, or you're tidy, or your bum doesn't look big in that. But when you look in a true mirror, you don't look at yourself, you look for yourself. You look for revelation, not for reassurance. And this was deeply interesting to me, because what I do for a living is I help people be themselves, not in any narcissistic or solipsistic way, but because I believe that social reformation always starts with the individual. And when you look at remarkable individuals, and when I say remarkable or successful individuals, I don't mean monetarily successful. I mean people that have been successful at achieving whatever they set out to do. You'll find that the thing they have in common is they have nothing in common. These are people who, you know, work in many of the fields that I work in. I work with people in corporations, I work with captains of industry, I work with selected politicians, I work with geophysicists, I work with chamber orchestras and ballet dancers and pop stars and opera singers. And I've identified the thread that links them. These are individuals who've managed to figure out the unique gift that the universe gave them when they incarnated, and then put that at the service of their goals. I think that we all come complete. We come complete with one true note we were destined to sing, and these are people that have managed to figure that out. And it doesn't dictate your choice of job. What it dictates is how you do it. And when we see these people, we invariably call them larger than life. You know, you'll see somebody like Roberto Benigni and you'll say, oh my goodness, Eve Ensler, she's larger than life, which always makes me smile. Because how could you be larger than life? Life is large. But most of us don't take up nearly the space the universe intended for us. We take up this wee space round our toes, which is why when you see somebody in the full flow of their humanity, it's remarkable. They're at least a foot bigger in every direction than normal human beings. And they shine, they gleam, they glow. It's like they've swallowed the moon. And all the work I've done has led me to believe that individuality really is all it's cracked up to be. In fact, people who are frightened to be themselves will work for those who aren't afraid. Now, your job is not to be anything like any of the people that I put up behind me. In fact, your job is to be as unlike them as you can possibly be. Your only job while you're here on the planet is to be as good at being you as they are at being them. That's the deal. So I want to start today by asking you an incredibly personal question. Not the one that says, why are there so many syllables in the word monosyllabic? No. Not even the one that says, did you know that Britney Spears was an anagram for Presbyterian? No. Something a wee bit more pivotal. In fact, this is a question that's been looking for you your whole life. It's probably the simplest and the most complicated question you'll ever ask. And yet, how many times in your life has somebody offered you that well-meaning piece of advice that you should just be yourself? How many times have you said it to somebody else? One of your kids comes to you, or one of your team comes to you, and they tell you they're nervous, they're scared, they have to go and do something and their bottle goes. And you say to them, darling, just be yourself. Because when you're yourself, you're fabulous. Now, it always resonates, because it's all we want to do. If you tell John to be himself, he doesn't want to be Mary. He's quite happy being himself. But it's the use of the word just that I find interesting. Because it would imply two things. Number one, that was an easy thing to do. Number two, that it was an original piece of advice. You know, John had never thought about it himself. When it comes to being yourself, when it comes to being in the world, the minute you showed up, the minute you incarnated, you were given a life sentence. Now, you don't know how long you got. Maybe you got 70 years and I got 62. We've no idea how long we got. Although, where you're born, when you're born, to whom you're born, all these things have a certain influence or impact on how you become who you become. So if you're born in Switzerland, chances are you've got a long time to figure this shit out. If you're born in Zimbabwe or some parts of Glasgow, and I'm not kidding, you've got significantly less time. So what I want you to think about is not what your life expectancy is, but what do you expect from life? And what does life expect from you? Those are more interesting questions. And the two places in life where you are awesome at being yourself, you're fantastic at being yourself, one of them is when you're a kid. When you're a kid, you're fantastic at being yourself because you don't know how to disguise your differentness. That's why you see kids on the beach, you know, naked up until the age of 5, and then suddenly at the age of 6 or 7, they want a bathing suit, they want a bikini. Who's got a 4-year-old boy? Anybody got a 4-year-old boy? I'll take a 3-year-old. Jose, you've got a 3-year-old boy. So I want you to imagine that I go into Eduardo's class in school, and it's a class of 3-year-old boys, and I say to the boys, who's the strongest boy in the class? What's going to happen? Every hand, right? Every single hand in the class will go up. They'll be competitively strong. If I go into the same class, but it's full of 7-year-old boys, and ask the same question, they'll say him. Because they know by the time they're 7. He's the strong one. He's the fastest runner. He's the funny guy. He's the bully. Society archetype emerges round about the age of 5, 6, 7, 8. That's why the Jesuits say, give me a boy until the age of 7 and I'll show you the man. Because that's the birth of consciousness. And from then on, you become more self-conscious and by default less good at being yourself. The other place you're fantastic at being yourself is when you're a wrinkly. Because you can't be arsed. You get to that stage in your life where you realise there are more summers behind you than there are in front of you, and everything intensifies. You become more honest. You become less compromising. So you're going to tell people, I don't want the spinach, I'm not going to eat it, I don't like it. And I don't like jazz, so you can shut that noise off. And while I'm at it, I don't like you. And we call these people eccentric. We call our oldies eccentric. In fact, what they're doing is being authentic. So it's kind of like an hourglass effect. When you're young, you're great at being yourself. When you're old, you're great at being yourself. But the bit in the middle is sometimes the most problematic. That's the bit where you have to socialize, you have to accommodate, you have to adapt. So I've developed the I complex. And the I complex is a model to help you figure out which I you mean when you say I. You're very familiar with the superiority complex. If you have a superiority complex, you pretty much think you're the most important person in the room. If you've got an inferiority complex, you suffer from an over-modest self-regard. Now, these are both signs of a fragile ego. One of them is about delusions of grandeur, and the other one delusions of insignificance. There's a third way of being in the world, and I call it interiority. This is one of my made-up words. So the word interiority describes a particular disposition. And there's two reasons it might be useful to you. Number one, it's completely uncomparative. If you have a superiority complex or an inferiority complex, you need other people around. For a superiority complex, you need other people to be smaller. For an inferiority complex, you need to suffer from the I'm going to be found out syndrome, so somebody needs to find you out. Interiority is entirely unrelative. So to operate from this position of interiority, it's like a perceptual vantage point. It's a sensibility. It's an orientation. And it's the only place in your life, you have no competition. Try and find a comparison to yourself and you'll draw a blank. So I could talk to you about interiority till my tongue bleeds, or I could just show you what it looks like. So I want to introduce you to a woman called Jill Scott. You might have her on your iTunes playlist. But Jill's a singer and she's just about to go on stage and perform. And in case you missed the question, there's a French filmmaker who's filming her. She's going on stage after Erykah Badu. And he says to her, are you nervous, going on after Erykah? And I want you to listen to what she says.
That chick right there has definitely led the way for me and a lot of other sisters. I appreciate it.
Are you nervous you're going to perform after her? I'm trying to get your feelings.
Have you ever seen me perform? I am the Lady Jill Scott. I am a poet and a singer and a lot of other things. We all have our own thing. That's the magic. That everybody comes with their own sense of strength and their own queendom. Mine could never compare to hers, and hers could never compare to mine.
See, you didn't even know you had a queendom. That's what it looks like. When you figure out how to be yourself, it's an incredibly liberating, untragic way to go through life. So you don't develop an identity that's predicated on being a patchwork personality. You're not a composite, an amalgam of all your experience and influences. You're not just somebody's boss or somebody's mum or anybody's anything. You're yourself. However, the chances are there are at least 4 of you sitting in each of those chairs. So let me introduce yourselves. The most visible you that you represent to the outside world is what everybody else thinks of you. And there are as many opinions of you as there are people. I want you to imagine you're like a big USB stick and you plug into the world. You show up on the desktop of the world. And that's the power of context. If you don't understand that bit, being yourself can be an ill-advised strategy. So of course it's important that you understand perception. But one of the things I've noticed in terms of gender, and I'm terribly untragically woman, by the way. I don't find myself tragically woman. I describe myself as a womanist rather than a feminist. But I'm also a card-carrying feminist. There are very few things that I think are gender-specific, but one of them is something I call approval addiction. The need to be liked, the need for approbation or recognition, or for somebody to tell you it's okay. I find more women suffer from that affliction than men. And I think it's one of the most debilitating things when it comes to being yourself. Needing other people's approval, living somebody else's opinion and mistaking it for your own. It's one of the most debilitating things you'll do on the road to being yourself. You will never ever be perception-less, but it's important to be perception-free. One of the things that's going to help you to be perception-free is to tune into the next circle of the I complex. So this is your wish image. This is what you would like everybody else to think of you. And it's not about being fake or fad or pretending. It's about moving. It's about possibility. It's about potential. It's about supposition. So whilst there's a part of you that's like your backbone, this part of you is like your wishbone. This one is your adaptive personality, your construct self. And even that's unique, because nobody in the world has had the same experiences or influences that you have. But this is the you that keeps moving, that keeps changing all the time. And it helps you avoid being one of those people, you know, the people that say to you they have 15 years experience when they mean 1 year 15 times? They literally repeat themselves year after year after year. What I want you to think about is with every passing year, your job is to be better and better at being who you already are. This is not a cosmetic exercise. You're already different. Your job is to figure out how, and then to be more of that. Now, there are certain times in your life that lend themselves to change, that make change quicker, deeper. And I call them intervals of possibility. Now, they're not always as well signposted as this one. But you know, there's times in your life when you come to a bifurcation on the path and you sense that the potential for change is heightened. You meet a stranger in a bar. You get to decide what you're going to do. Your boss comes to you and offers you a new job. You know, what do you want? You want to keep doing the same thing, or do you want this job? And you know that if you make that change, the speed of your life will change. Now, unfortunately, some of these interventions, some of these intervals of possibility are catastrophic. In fact, most of them are catastrophic because most of us would rather sleepwalk until something happens to wake us up. And what will happen is somebody you love will get sick, or you'll get sick, or you'll get fired. Or maybe it's something impersonal. Maybe 9/11 happens, or the tsunami happens, or the Kashmiri earthquake happens, but something happens that rocks you back into that inner self and makes you ask the question I asked you at the beginning of this talk. Now, the problem is when it happens catastrophically is you're vulnerable, you're weak. And my question is, why wouldn't you ask yourself these questions when you're strong? From a position of health, when you're in a job, when you're loved, that's when the questions become more useful. So the question on this one is, if you could be the woman of your dreams, who would you be? And my tongue's nowhere near my cheek when I ask you that question. The thing that might stop you being the woman of your dreams is the next circle. And that's what you think of you. So now you've got what everybody else thinks of you, what you would like everybody else to think of you, and this is what you think of you. And you have good days and bad days, right? There's days when you wake up and you think you're the bee's knees, and other days you wake up and you can't even say your name. Even your cell phone feels too heavy. So on the days you wake up and you feel that you're the bee's knees, it's not even like you've got a reason. It's like free-floating joy in your body just looking for a target. And you know how it feels in those days because you just think, somebody give me an audience, I'm on fire, quick, point me somewhere. And your hair's fabulous and everything just works. Everything works on those days. But the other days, nothing works. Your legs don't work. Your mouth doesn't work. The word thief comes and steals your entire vocabulary. Those are two extremes of your ego. And one of them is about self-congratulation, and the other one is about self-castigation. Now, your entire life, I don't care who you are, I don't care how old you are, your entire life from birth up until now has been about building a stable relationship with your ego. You need an ego to live in a Western capitalist world. If you didn't have an ego, you'd be toast. But your challenge is to take the ego from its dominant position and pull it back so that it's in service to yourself. That's when it becomes useful. And in order to do that, you've got to find the still point right in the middle of those two extremes. So that's what I would call equanimity or equilibrium. And it's the kind of state of mind that cannot be perfumed in any way by anything that happens outside you. This kind of confidence that comes from that is like the confidence of the sky. Right now it's dark outside, but you know if you went up on a plane, even in the stormiest of days, the sky's brilliant blue underneath. So when you look at the sky and it's made a rainbow and it's absolutely gorgeous, there's no question that the sky's up there going, did you see my rainbow? Or when it's a terrible, grey, gloomy day that the sky's going to apologise. No, the sky just is. Because the sky sees the impermanence of the clouds and the impermanence of the rainbows. And you have to develop an inner state of mind that's as impervious to all the good shit and bad shit that happens to you as the sky is to the weather. Now, we would also call this, in a Western context, we would call this feeling a feeling of humility. And I had one day last week where I got to work with UK Sport. And particularly, I got to work with the amazing coaches who worked with the amazing Olympic athletes, who got all those amazing results at the Summer Olympics. It was incredible to be in the same room as 400 of these people. And the woman who runs UK Sport is a woman called Baroness Campbell, and she gave me a definition of humility that's as good as any I've ever found. She said, humility is not thinking less of yourself. Humility is thinking about yourself less. And I remembered learning that lesson when I was a wee girl, and probably no more than 7 or 8. And it was actually the woman with the squinty mouth that taught me the lesson. She had no idea, my mother, what she was doing to me as I was growing up. But when I grew up in Glasgow, particularly working class, steel industry Glasgow, nobody had any money. So nobody could afford to go out and be entertained. Everybody's social life happened in a house. So at the weekends, all the wrinklies and all the kids would show up at people's houses, and they would, drink till their kneecaps were on backwards and all that kind of stuff. But everybody at some point in the evening had to perform. And it was a riot because these people were bus conductresses and welders and carpenters by daytime. But then they'd show up at night time and turn into Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and Sarah Vaughan and Billy Eckstein. They were all, in my house, it was like a star-studded affair living in my house. And all the kids were taught to perform as well. And so I'm the oldest of 4 girls. My mother had 4 daughters. So did my father, interestingly enough. But we were brought up from any age to perform, and we'd be wheeled out at these family parties, me with my guitar and my sisters around me, and we'd have to sing, and we would literally be positioned, Jose, like the Von Trapps. My father would say, Bernadette over there, Louise over there, and then we would sing, and we were terrible. We were absolutely rubbish. So one night my mother came up to get us, and we were all upstairs having pillow fights and everything. She showed up and she said, right lassies, everybody's ready, go down and give them a song. And this night I was just overcome. I said, I don't want to sing. She said, why do you not want to sing? I said, I'm shy. She said, what are you shy for? I said, well, everybody's going to be looking at me. And I'll never forget her face. She looked at me, she said, Caroline, don't flatter yourself, darling. You think anybody down the stairs is interested in you, they're not. And your job's to go down there and make them happy, so go and sing. I said, okay. And I picked up my guitar, and I picked up my sisters. And you know what? That advice has never left me. But what it has left me with is spectacular disregard for where my abilities end, and spectacular disregard for being the centre of attention. In fact, since that day, I have never been the centre of attention. You're the centre of mine, and that's a very different feeling. So the last you, and the opposite of least, is the ever-present, unchanging you. This is the you that you've been since you were 7, and the you that you'll be when you're 107, please God. I spend a lot of time in India, and in India you're raised with this feeling that you're a spiritual being who happens to be in a physical body, whereas we in the West are much more into our physical bodies, and then if we get old enough and long in the tooth enough, we kind of get interested in spirit. But if you've ever been to the Gandhi Museum in Delhi, you'll know that this is the line that's above the door. And it was actually a response by Gandhi to a question from a journalist. So Gandhi was getting on a train, and the journalist called after him, Gandhiji, what's your message to the world? And Gandhi turned around and said, my life's my message. And your life is your message too. Might not be as big a message as Gandhi's, mine certainly isn't. But your life has to be your message. Otherwise, why are you here? It's not like you've got a spare. So when you think about your identity, when you think about what it means to be alive, when you think about why you deserve to exist, you're not your thoughts because you think them. And you can't be your feelings because otherwise, who's the you that feels them? You're not what you have. You're not what you do. You're not even who you love or who loves you. There has to be something underneath all that. And when you look at people who have managed to transcend all these judgments that we put upon them, you know, this man here, he couldn't be judged as a man or a black man or young or old or Democrat or Republican or gay or straight. It really, really wouldn't have mattered because he knew why he was here. Yes, we can. So you see, he seemed to be a verb. And even when you're born without many of the attributes that some of your peers might have, even when you're born in a way that may lead you to feel impotent, if you can tap in to that voice, if you can tap into that inner voice that I've been talking about, you might just end up being, at 12 years old, the youngest person ever called to the national world champion swim team. You might even end up at the age of 13 being the youngest Olympian gold medal winner ever. You might even end up at 14 being the youngest person ever to get an MBE. That's what happens when you dial into the personal pronoun. So if you can do this, not only will the speed of your life get quicker, not only will the substance of your life get richer, but you will never feel superfluous again. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
First of all, I gotta know where she got that cloak of a coat. You guys see that thing? That was pretty intense. That was cool. Okay, let me stop sharing here. Ooh, I saw the chat kind of going, but I didn't want to mess up the video, so I kind of wanted to like pop over here. Ah, yes, I'm so glad you guys are loving this. I loved it too. At first, it took me a second to like switch my mindset to like listen to her. I think in the beginning, because like her accent, I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to read so I know what she's saying every time. Like when she said the word girls, it was like girls or something like that. I was like, wait, what'd she say? And I read it. I was like, oh, girls. I kind of liked her accent though, and like after about 5 minutes, I felt like I was in with what she was saying and the way she was saying it and talking. I took a lot of notes, so hopefully you guys did too. So let's talk through this. Okay. Wow, like the first thing I noticed, so the first thing I wrote down was we look in the mirror for reassurance. How interesting is that? You know what? You know what's always funny too? Oh, Alicia, I see your hand up. Do you want to go ahead and talk? Maybe she didn't mean to do that. I'll give her a second. No? Okay. Oh, wait, I have Alicia Weaver with her little, sorry, I got two Alicias today. Did she mean to? Alicia Weaver, calling Alicia Weaver. All right, well, if she has something to say, you let me know, girl. But the first thing I saw was like mirror for reassurance. I thought that was so interesting because I always notice, and this is just something maybe you guys notice as well. I do it too. So the moment I pull up a video or I go live or I jump on Zoom, what's the first thing I do? Adjust the camera, adjust my hair. I'm looking for reassurance instantly. Isn't that interesting? Like as soon as she said that, it like popped in my head, like, ooh, I totally do that too. Like I look in the mirror, like, how do I look today? Oh, you're looking all right without makeup. Oh, your hair kind of, that's all right. We'll go with that. You know, like the moment I look in the mirror, it's like I'm searching for that reassurance for myself, which I just thought was very interesting. I don't know if she really said it was good or bad, but I just thought it was interesting. Like I just thought that was like, I didn't even realize I was like looking for reassurance, like from myself, that I look presentable or lack of present too, you know? So that was like one of the first things that I wrote down that she talked about. The next thing I wrote down was taking up space, of like how she was talking about how like we just like literally we take ourselves and make ourselves so small all the time, especially if we are uncomfortable or unassured with ourselves, you know. We tend to downplay ourselves all the time, and we tend to be like, oh no, that's not me, or oh no, I'm not going to do that, or oh, I don't want to attract too much of attention, or oh, I don't want to say that because I don't know if that's going to offend that person. And we constantly play small all the time. And I think it was really cool to just be like, the people that she's been studying that are actually stepping up out of being small are not afraid to take up a little space, are not afraid to speak up, speak out, right? Express their opinions, express their emotions. Like, to me, that's when you start to become assured with yourself, when you start to feel like yourself, and you really be yourself, like she was saying, you know, being yourself, not an image of what everybody thinks or whatever. Like when you're just your true self, you don't mind taking up space. That was actually really hard for me for a long time, actually. Like I was always like, I don't want to offend anybody. I just want everybody to like me. I just want, you know, especially when I first started coaching, I didn't want to ever get into anything that was like an opinion of mine. I was like, I just want to be, I'll just focus on health, because then everybody will just like it and then just go right with it. And then there was the point where I was like, but I actually have a lot of opinions. I actually am a really freaking smart woman. And I actually know a lot. And I started to just be like, you know what? Actually, I think if I was just expressed myself in what I really believe and what I really think, and just started being myself on my social media, naturally the people that don't like me are going to wean themselves out, and the people that do are going to come closer. And that was a huge stepping stone for me, of when I just started not caring whether I was offending somebody. Like, if you're offended by me, you can scoot. That's it. And if you really like me and you like my opinions, then come closer. You know? And I just started letting certain people go and not holding on to them and saying, you know, that's fine. I wish you the best. Right? Like, I'm not mad at them because they don't like me or like my opinions or whatever. I'm like, go find your person. Right? I've had this one girl one time, like, so she like was kind of throwing a little pity party in her like, oh, I can't work out. And I was just like, listen, like, you're either going to do it or you're not. And she was just like, tough love doesn't always work on everybody. Blah, blah. And she kind of like started like putting me down with the way that I was coaching. I said, listen, there are so many coaches out there. I hope that you find a coach that works best for you. And she was like, what do you mean? Like, you're just not going to coach me? I was like, well, not if my coaching style isn't right for you. There's somebody out there that will allow your pity party. Go ahead and be with them. I was just like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm not going to sit here and change the way I am so you can feel good about yourself. Like, go find a coach that is good for you. If you don't think I'm good for you, it's fine. But it was funny because then like 2 weeks later, she like came back and she was like, and I'm like, yeah, I know, because this is what you need. You do need like someone to like not give into your BS, you know? And so it's funny, like, but I could have easily in that moment been like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to offend you, da, 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 and make myself small and step back from my beliefs to make her comfortable. But I said, nope, sorry about you. I'm willing to lose a challenger to be authentic to myself. I'm willing to lose friends, family, whatever, to be myself. Because I sleep so much better at night knowing I'm true to myself rather than true to other people. Right? Like, it just feels better. It's hard. It's hard to like stand up and be like, no, this is like really how I feel and I'm not backing down from it. It's actually really hard. But the more I do it, ever since I've done it there, I consistently do it. That was like really the first moment I was like, bye then. Like, I was just like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, if I'm not right for you, then maybe you just need somebody else. You know, I was the first time I was ever actually willing to lose a challenger. And it didn't bother me. But she's actually still here. That's the funny part. You know? That's kind of the interesting part is, so when people fight with who you are, I think in a world it's kind of jealousy, you know, like maybe she was jealous that I could be tough and be strong in that, and she wasn't, and so her fear projected onto me because I was showing her something that she wasn't being, you know. And so it was easy for her to try to shut me down and to make me feel small because that's where she was, right? So she felt small, she felt downgraded, and so it was easy for her to project that onto me to make me feel small, to even me out, but I wasn't allowing it, right? Yes.
I thought we make a paper and I thought we make
Okay.
funnel.
Okay, we'll do it after. If you're good during my meeting, we can do whatever you want.
Do you want to make a paper? I know it's like,
Yes, yes, but after my meeting.
let's say please.
I think you have to say please. Why would I say please? See ya. Because you have to say please. I was like, wait, what? Like, why am I saying please in this situation? You're the one that wants something. Okay, so I really love that, like taking up space, and like your job is being you. And it's just like any other job, right? Like the first year is going to be the hardest, right? Like whenever you you guys ever like started a new job and you're just mentally exhausted. Hold on a second. Sorry. Sorry. The door, I'm telling you guys, this door, when it like opens up, you can hear the whole household. It's like a sound barrier for the whole house. Okay, so your job is being you. And I love that part because I think, so what I'm saying is like the more, when you're at a new job, you guys know, like your brain is like working overtime. Like you come home those first couple of days and you're like, I'm just exhausted. I'm just so tired from just learning and processing. But then a year into the job, you're here, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here, and you're bopping around, you know where everything goes. And I think that's the same when we're just working on being ourselves. It's the same process. At first, it takes a lot of effort to just be like, you know what? I'm just gonna be myself. You know what? I'm gonna say no to that because that's how I actually feel. You know what? I am gonna go do that because that's what I really want to do. It's gonna take a lot of effort to really ask yourself, like, what do I want? What do I want in this situation? What do I really need, or what do I really want to do? And you're gonna have to ask yourself, like an internal question, not just what does Mike want? What does Derek want? What do my girls want? Me. What do I need? What do I want? Right? So you got to find a way to connect with yourself. Okay. So I love that. And she was just like, I wrote the word down just because she had that on the thing. And I thought that was interesting when it's like, oh, just be yourself. Like that's easy or something, which it's obviously not, we all know that. We've all had situations where I was like, oh my God, I was totally not myself in that situation. Oh, I was totally shy. I have this all the time where like, when I get around somebody that's only known me on social media, and I'm like, when I'm in person, I'm like, oh my God, like, okay, do I need to like be this like certain person for them? Because I know that they think that that whatever they have, whatever their perception is of me, I know that they've created whoever they think I am, right? And so when I meet them, I'm always like, oh my God, do I need to like be this creation that they have in their head? And it was like, it messed with me for a little bit. It actually made my ego kind of like go crazy because I was thinking so much about what other people thought of me, right? And then I was like, wait, I just need to be myself because that's who I am. And that's when I really started to be myself on my social media as well, right? Like I was like, listen, if I got an opinion, it's going on my social media. If I really feel a way about a workout or something like this, like it's going on my social media. Because when you meet me, I want to be this person. I want you to say, that's exactly what I thought Jenny was going to be like, right? That's what I want. I want you to feel like you know me because I'm being true and authentic to myself. So when you met me, you go, yep, that's pretty much what Jenny's like. That's it. There she is. That's what you got. That's exactly what I thought she was. That's how she is on Warrior Hour. That's how she is in her content, you know? Becky, I saw a hand. Were you waving?
Yeah, I wanted to share something if it's okay. I don't want to take up everybody's time. But so in the beginning, like when I started with Beachbody, I was like terrified to show my face on social media. I was terrified to come on here and show my face. Like I didn't put my video on for the first like 2 months I was with you guys, and you're probably like, who is this crazy lady? But like I had this realization like finally that my face is my face, and the people who talk to me, and I used to be a teacher. I used to stand in front of millions of kids every day. I am who I am, and why am I scared to show it? So I finally started, like, I would take a picture of like my Shakeology cup, but I would never go like this with my Shakeology and do a selfie because I was terrified. Like, oh, with no makeup on, like, oh, I look crazy. But it's like, this is who I am. I was scared to talk on videos, and because I didn't like my voice. But it's like, you can't change your voice, and everybody that talks to you knows your voice. And it's like, so I finally had like this realization, like, this is who you are. Put yourself out there. If people don't like it, they can go their own way. And I just love it. Like at this point, I have like consistent people who watch my stories, and some of them are friends and some of them are people I don't know. And they message me that I inspire them. And it's like, had I never finally just got the confidence to like be myself, like where would I still be? I would still just be taking a picture of my water bottle with just that. And that's boring. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to see that. They want to see you. They want to see who you are. And so I just felt like that kind of went along with our video today. It's like, be you, just be you. The people who don't want to be around you will go their own way. And yeah, so thanks for letting me share.
I love that. I love that because I've watched you do that actually. So like from an outsider's view, just hearing you even talk about it, I'm like, I remember this. Like I remember when you would jump on the workouts and you would just set your phone like down and it would be the ceiling. Like we would just stare at the ceiling for Becky all the time. Like not that I ever cared. I've never really worried. I was like, oh, whatever, that's what she's doing. Maybe her phone fell. Like I think I actually thought, I was like, oh, her phone probably fell or something. But I remember you would jump on and you would like set your phone over on the side. And then like slowly, like the confidence gets built. And you just, once you realize like, oh, the more me I am, actually the better I feel. The more I just don't care about that crap, the better I feel. You know, and when you feel good about yourself, you guys, I think that starts to show. And that's why I love Beachbody. Like that, oh God, Beachbody is like so beautiful in a sense of how much confidence it can give you. Like when you just start taking care of yourself, when you just start eating a little better, when you start maybe getting a little bit of muscle because you've been working out, or you lose the 5 pounds, like that helps the whole process of enjoying yourself. Right? Because you feel like you're actually working on yourself from the inside and you're like, oh, I'm kind of looking a little better. Like I always know when one of my girls is like starting a program and they're starting to like feel themselves. So Mike and I have actually even said this before. He goes, oh, she must be feeling herself. Like one time, so like the first picture of like a workout will be like just the face or like just the weights. Right? It'll be like just their feet or their weights. And then like 2 weeks in, it may be like a selfie. And then like 4 weeks in, it might be like I'm in a sports bra or like a tank top. And the camera starts to get further and further away. And you start to see more and more of the person. It's so interesting, you guys. And it's beautiful. Like I love watching it happen. I'm like, oh, it's happening. It's happening. Like I can see it happening. And like all of a sudden, like the smile gets better or the smile gets bigger or, you know what I mean? Like the poses start to happen. And I'm like, it's happening. Like you're just starting to feel yourself, you know? And it's so beautiful to watch that bloom. And some people will bloom like this, and some people takes a little bit longer too. You know, it depends like where you were at in the beginning. It depends on the support system around you as well. So if you have people saying, wow, you're looking great, you're doing awesome, I love what you're being inspiring, that can help you build that confidence too. Now, if you have people around you that are like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? You look stupid. Oh my God, you got to stop losing weight. That can also really, really hinder your growth, right? So sometimes we got to be protective of our ego too. We have to recognize those people in our lives. And I'm sorry, but we got to nix them. You got to nix them out of your life. That doesn't mean you can't ever have them back in your life. You can't ever come back and pick them up later on. But in the moment of you healing, you got to let them go. Okay. Now you can come back when you're feeling good and you're feeling stable. You can come back and say, all right, I'm ready to help you now. Now that I've helped myself, I can help you. Right. And so that's a really big thing too. And I love that. So I love watching your guys' confidence build. And I think it all has to do a lot with our ego too. So I like really want to kind of jump over to that part. So perception, persona, ego, and self. Woo, buddy. Like, how important are all of those things? Can I help you? You need something? What?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to wait. Okay. So I love perception is very interesting because I think that's kind of what I was talking about, like when I post my social media content. Like, what is the perception people are getting from me, right? Like, what if they're reading something, they're probably filling in the gaps around the stuff, you know, that I'm not showing. They'll fill in the time frames that I didn't show. They will fill in their perception of me, right? But I always feel like as long as I'm being as authentic as possible, I'm at least shaping that perception in the way that I want to, right? It's not quite manipulation, but I just want to know that I'm coming off as a way that feels authentic to me, right? So if you're ever posting something that doesn't feel authentic to you, don't post it, right? Like, if you're not a fitness, you know, junkie and you're out here posting like fitness videos, but you're like, I feel really weird doing this, maybe don't do it. Maybe it's not your thing, right? Like, go with what feels right for you, and then eventually you're going to start developing an area. But if you're just like jumping in areas because, oh, this is what Jenny does, so I'm just going to do what Jenny does, you're probably going to feel inauthentic to yourself. Okay. That was like one of my favorite things that she said, is that there are so many empowering people that you can look at and get motivated from, but you are not them. And you are not supposed to be them. You are not supposed to be out there doing what they're doing. You're supposed to be out there doing what you were born to do, right? So like, I always see this like as a team, you know, when I start coaching and girls start coming onto the team, like they'll do kind of what I'm doing. And I'm like, that's a great start because that'll get you started. I go, but you're not me. You don't live on an island. You don't live in Florida. You don't have a kid. Or maybe you got more kids than I do. Or maybe you got a different husband that does something different. Like, you're not me, so I need you to be you, right? I need you to find your people that are like you. I don't want you to be like me, right? I can inspire you and motivate you and kind of give you an idea of what I do, but there's so many different ways out there to do life, okay? And so I love that she said that. It's like, you can be inspired by all these amazing people, but you still need to be you, even if that's nothing any of those people are doing or anybody in the world has done. Maybe you have ideas that no one in this world has, but because your ego stops you from sharing it, the world is never going to experience it, right? Like, ego stops us, you guys. The ego is like maybe a whole day in itself. We might have to talk about ego tomorrow. So ego will stop you from doing so much, ooh, should I post that? Ooh, should I put that picture out there? What are people going to think? What is my mom going to say? What are my friends going to say when I go here? Your ego, ooh, buddy, it can get in your way so fast, right? But if you're yourself, okay, I know. But if you're yourself and you have a good sense of who you are, I can't take this kid. If you,
I'm bad cop.
oh, good cop, bad cop. We did that the other day. You get so funny, it's like a movie twice in one day. But he does good cop on one side, and then he flips it around, and it's bad cop on the other side.
Yeah.
Really.
I already made the good side.
There's the good side. Oh, you can't really see that one. You might have to make that a little bit brighter. I see you've got a sad face on there.
But
You might need a marker.
that's a mean face.
Yeah. You're funny. Okay. So I loved the picture too where I want to talk more about ego, but I think we're going to talk about it tomorrow. Because I have a lot to talk about ego, and I feel like once I get into it, we'll never get out of it. So we're going to talk about ego tomorrow. Okay, I've got some more stuff I want to talk about ego, but I've got some other stuff that I thought that she said that was really interesting. I loved the arrows. You can either stay with you can either go with the crazy new shit, or you can go over here with the same old shit. And I loved that because it's like you have a moment in front of you at all times, right? Like you can continue doing the same old shit, or you can do something new at any moment, at anything you do. You can either continue doing the shit that's no longer serving you, or you can start doing the new stuff, right? Like at any moment, you can choose to do the new stuff. So stop choosing that same old shit, okay? Because it's not serving you. It's not providing you what you want. Because if it did, you probably wouldn't be here, right? Let's be honest. You wouldn't be here searching for something more, or some guidance, or some motivation, or some inspiration if you had a vision and knew exactly where you were going, right? So obviously we're still looking at these arrows going, which way should I be going, right? I'm over here kind of just doing the same old shit, right? And I just need to start going with the new stuff, because the new stuff I think is actually going to get me where I need to go. It's going to be scary. My ego is going to be compromised, but it's worth it. It's worth it to follow it this way, because I need to be someone over here. I need new stuff in my life, because the same old ain't cutting it anymore, right? And I know that because I feel the same way. Like there's things in my life and I'm like, dude, we've been doing that. Like I'm over that. It's time for something new in that spot, right? And as I get older, or as I get more into my self-development, new stuff keeps arising, right? So the stuff that worked 4 years ago that pulled me out of my own like little depression and pity party, the stuff that pulled me out originally is no longer, it's useful to me, but I have to grow from there. I've grown from there, right? The stuff that worked 4 years ago is not the stuff that works now. The stuff that pulled me out 4 years ago, I had to continue growing and still doing new stuff. Because if I was still sitting with all of that stuff that I just figured out 4 years ago, I wouldn't be where I am now. So once you start the new path, you got to keep going and keep going and keep going. Because if you don't, it becomes old shit. The new stuff becomes old shit because you've been doing it for 4 years, right? So it's time to keep going. And that's hard too, when you're like, oh, I've done, I got my weight loss and all this stuff. And then you're like, but now I need muscle, right? So you lost all the weight. Maybe the new stuff was losing all the weight. Okay, now that you lost the weight, now what? Now losing all the weight became your old story. Now you got a new story of building muscle. Okay, do you guys see how that can change? And the moment your new stuff can become old stuff, and you have to continue moving to the new stuff over and over and over again. We can't be stagnant, because we know also the moment you stop, you're going to get ran over. We learned that like a couple weeks ago with Les Brown. He said the moment you stop, The moment you get complacent and you think that you've gone far enough, boom, you're going to get ran over. You're going to get left behind. And then you're going to go, oh, I was doing so good. Why am I falling off? Why did I fall off? Because you stopped. You have to keep going. Okay. So I love that. I love that arrow thing. It's like in my brain now. Okay. So and then the lastly is like, I wrote down, not thinking less of myself, thinking of myself less. Right. So instead of saying like, oh, I'm a terrible person, or, oh, I should have done that. So instead of thinking less of myself, I'm just going to start thinking, oh, wait, okay, wait. Yeah, I'm just going to start thinking of myself less. Okay. So if I think, oh my gosh, I totally dropped the ball there, I'm such a shitty person, then I could be like, okay, maybe how can I like make up for it? Like maybe what can I do for Mike? Okay, so I dropped the ball over here, but what can I do for Mike? So instead of beating myself up, feeling guilty and placing shame on myself, I'm just going to lean into somebody else. I'm just going to lean in and give to somebody else. Because what happens when you do something for somebody else? You feel good, right? You're like, oh, look, I did that for them, right? Like I was kind of having a hard day, but I just felt like reaching out and I just sent this person lunch, or I just picked them up some coffee and got them some coffee, because even though I was having a crappy day, I wanted to make her day a little bit better. And then she's going to be super appreciative. Oh my God, you brought me coffee? You didn't have to do that. Thank you so much. You're such a sweetheart. I just love you. And you're going to be like, you're welcome. And you're going to walk away feeling good, right? And now instead of beating yourself up, you leaned into somebody else and you made yourself feel a little bit better. And them too. Right? So whenever you ever start to beat yourself up, I want you to think, how can I lean into somebody else? Right? So instead of guilt tripping myself right now or shaming myself right now for maybe missing this or hiccuping over here, I'm just going to see how I can lean into somebody else and help them. And I think that's also how we get out of ego. You know, when we stop thinking about only ourselves, like, oh, poor me. How dare I do that to myself? You know, it gets you out of ego, out of your head and into action, right? Kind of like the 5-second rule. So you're sitting there, you're like, I should do this. I should do this. Oh, why am I not doing this? Why am I not doing this? And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Make movement towards helping somebody else. Get out of your head. Stop beating yourself up and spiraling over here and get into motion and send out love. Because, guys, output equals input. Plain and simple. You put love out, love will come back in. Okay? If you need love in your life, which if you're beating yourself up, talking crap to yourself, shaming and guilting, you obviously need love, right? You need love right now. So instead of beating yourself up, say, I'm just going to lean into somebody else. I'm just going to love somebody else. I'm going to send them some love. I'm going to send them some whatever I can. Maybe it's, you know, a gift, or maybe it's just my time. Maybe it's just my words or walking with them or whatever. Then they're going to love you back. And then you're going to feel good about yourself. Okay? Output equals input. Send love out to receive love. Okay? And it'll get you out of your own ego in your own head. So the moment you start to beat yourself up, the moment you start to spiral, the moment you're beaten, you know, guilt, be like, you know what? I'm going to stop that. I'm just going to lean into somebody else. Maybe I'm going to check in with my challengers. Maybe I'm going to check in with my coach. Maybe I'm going to check in with my mom. Maybe I'm going to check in with my kids or my husband. You know, how can I help them? Say, hey, how can I help you today? I was getting a little like in my head today. And I just thought maybe if I could help you, it would kind of distract me from my own thoughts. Be honest, right? Oh, that is awesome, dude. Oh, look at that. Big old smiley face.
And now,
Oh, and the bag cup. Kind of hard. There's like a reflection on the bag. Kind of see the sad face right there. That's perfect. Awesome. Yeah, we just saw the bed cup. Yeah. Pretty cool. So, did anybody else have anything like specific? Oh, don't write on me. that they wanted to talk about. I want to talk about ego tomorrow, or just even like perception, persona, ego, and self. I want to talk about that collectiveness tomorrow. But did anybody else have anything else that they wrote down that they really wanted to talk about? I love that video, Amanda, by the way. Thank you so much. That was such a cool video. I actually am going to look her up and see if she's got more. Or maybe like a book or something. Also, gosh, I love her vocabulary. Does anybody else feel like their vocabulary needs to like be extended after watching her? I was like, I like knew the words she was talking about. I was like, but she just seemed so articulate when she was using them. I was like, oh my God, I need to step up my vocabulary. Get out my thesaurus or something.
I loved when they were talking about, when she was talking about Jill Scott and Erykah Badu. And she was like, you know, are you nervous about coming in after Erykah Badu? And it's like, thinking about it was like, dude, I would be so scared. And then thinking about who Jill Scott is as a person, like what, at least what we know of her. I love you. And what we know of her is like, Jill Scott doesn't care. And she's about what she's about. And it doesn't matter wholeheartedly. She just is who she is. She stands for what she stands for. She's always been that way since she's been in entertainment business. So it was just like really cool to see Jill Scott be like, are you kidding me? Do you know who I am? You know, like, I don't care.
Oh my gosh, I love that part. I can't believe I forgot to talk about that. That was such a cool part. Like, because it's so true. It's like, oh my gosh, how could I ever follow up? You know, the announcer was like, how could you ever follow up? Are you nervous to go after so-and-so? And she's like, no. Like, her amazingness does not take from my amazingness. And I love what she even said first. She goes, she's leading the way. So she's not saying, oh, she's taking all the spotlight. She's saying she's showing us what's possible. She's actually opening up the doors for all of us back here to shine collectively. She's not stealing my thunder. She's creating the storm, and I'm coming in as thunder and lightning. You know, like, we together can actually create magic without comparing ourselves, without saying, oh, I better not post a workout video because so-and-so posted a workout video. So both post a freaking workout video, you know, or, oh, I better not do this because so-and-so is doing this. I had a friend of mine that was like, oh, I always wanted to be a massage therapist, but you're a massage therapist. I was like, yeah, you can be a massage therapist too. Like, you just go to school and you do it like I did. Like, and I'm not taking any thunder from you. There's so many bodies to massage. I can't massage them all. So we actually need more massage therapists out there doing what I'm doing. You know, I'm not stealing thunder from you. I'm leading the way and showing you what's possible. Okay. That's what I even had, like my sister. I love my sister, but she's like the epitome of like, they're doing it, so I can't kind of thing. And so I have a ton of coaches in Upper. You guys probably know that. So Upper Sandusky is where I'm originally from. So I've got a ton of coaches, ton of challengers from that area. And my sister goes, which my sister has been a coach to me for 4 years, on and off. Like, she's kind of discount coach, kind of signed some people up here and there, but she won't ever fully commit. And the reason why is because she thinks I have too many coaches in Upper already. And I was like, okay, you could look at it one way, right? You could say, oh, there's so many Beachbody coaches in Upper, how could I ever do it? Or you could say, wow, I got this gang of girls to band together with. And actually, what if we just did power in numbers? This is actually validating that this is the right direction, right? That so many people you know are doing this. Why wouldn't you want to do it? It's obviously working if this many people are doing it, right? You could say, oh, so many people are doing that, I'm not going to do that. Or it could be validation as exactly why you should be doing it. It's perspective, how you want to look at it. And I tell my sister that all the time. I'm like, Nicole, the people that you would be having join you are not the people that so-and-so has joining them. Because she is a farmer's wife and you are an engineer and an artist. And like, it's not even the same. You're not in competition. It's like a spider web. Okay. So like or like a spoke, you know, like, so like you're a line on the spider web and this is a line in the spider web, and all the people that start getting connected connect and make a whole spider web, right? And the more legs and the more strings that you have that connect, the bigger the spider web can get, and the stronger the spider web can get as well, right? So instead of using it as a reason why you're not doing it, to me, it's every reason as to why you should be, right? And not because, oh, everybody else is doing it, so I'm going to do it, but it's obviously working, right? If you haven't seen some of the girls come up with results, losing 50 pounds, 80 pounds, 25 pounds, that's validation that something's happening right over here. So you could be a rebel and be like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Or you could let your ego down and say, that's exactly what I'm born to do. Because I think my sister is born to be a coach. She would get out of her head and stop letting her ego get in her way, because it's what her sister does. Because she would actually be amazing at a coach. And not even a coach like me. A coach exactly like she is. Exactly how she is. Because the people that are going to be attracted to her are not the people that are attracted to me. But if they say, oh, her and her sister do it, oh, that's kind of cool. It works for her, and she's a full-time engineer and an artist, but it also works for her. She's a mom, a stay-at-home mom and massage therapist. Wow, it works for both of them? Maybe I should try that. Maybe it could work for me too. You guys see that? So it's validation that it's working, but you got to let your ego down to stop you, because it's stopping you. It's stopping you from being all in. It's stopping you from going towards what you know you should be going towards. Imagine the people you could help if you would let your ego down about being a Beachbody coach, right? Because it's easy to be like, oh, I can't be a Beachbody coach, or like, I remember like the whole first year that I was a Beachbody coach, I still said I was a massage therapist. Like I wouldn't tell people I was a Beachbody coach. I was like semi-embarrassed, not quite like, I just wasn't sure how to say it. I was like, oh, I just don't want to be one of those people that I'm like, I'm a Beachbody coach, come join me. Like I was just like, that's not me, right? And so it took me a while to become confident in being a health coach. But the moment I just said, you know what, I don't care what people think. I literally don't care, because I love it. It works for me, and I'm just trying to share and help other people. And the moment I just said, I just don't care anymore, it was like this freedom in my body just came up. This uncertainty just went to the wayside. And I'll kind of word it like this, you guys. And this is kind of how I'll end today. But being half in something is like putting one foot in a canoe and trying to push off the land with one foot. You guys know how awkward that is? Like when you're like, okay, I'm gonna be in a canoe and I got one foot in the canoe and I'm trying to get off land, and you're like all unstable because the one foot is in the canoe and the other foot's in land, and you're like, I'm tipping, I'm falling, this is awkward, this is hard. That's what being half in is. Okay? Now, if you were to just sit in the canoe, push off, or push off, boom, and jump in that canoe and just ride it out and be in it, all in it, not half in, right? Like, could you imagine continuing down the stream with one leg hanging out? It doesn't work. You have to be in, but you have to let that ego down. You have to trust yourself. You have to trust that I can run and jump in this canoe and go. But you can't do it if you still got one leg dragging on the ground. Okay? And so that was like one thing that I really had to decide when I first started coaching. Am I going to be all in? Because if I'm not, this isn't something I should be doing. I have to be all in over here. Because if not, I'm sitting here one leg in the thing, and it's awkward, right? And then we're like, it's not working. And I'm like, well, you got a leg dragging behind you. Get your freaking leg in and go. And it'll probably work, right? So I'm going to leave you guys with that. Tomorrow, we're going to talk more on ego. I've got a lot of stuff on ego that kind of like opened a door up to ego. And I think that maybe it's a topic we can definitely continue. Bye, Vicki. And I think that we've got a lot of work to do in ego. And I'm really excited to delve into it. And I think that it's really going to be very awakening for us. And it can just be so freeing when you realize what your ego is and when it stops you. If you can identify your ego stopping you, then that's when you can start moving past it. But until we really know what ego is, it's hard to be like, well, what do you even mean, right? But if there's ever a time that you say, oh, I don't know if I want to post about Beachbody. What if my sister freaking comments and says like, nah, 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 nah. You know, that's your ego. Okay. Or if you're saying, oh, I don't know whether to message this person about this because what if they say no and da da da, that's ego. Okay. Now that you know it, you can recognize it and now you can move past it. So feel that fear and do it anyway. So feel the fear of your ego saying, oh, I don't know if I should message this person, and then feel it and then do it anyway. Okay. Don't let it stop you. You feel that fear, recognize it, and then move past it and do it anyway. Because you're going to notice, you guys, once you just do it anyway, it's not so scary. Do you guys know how many people I was scared to message that actually said, oh my God, thank you for messaging me. I've been meaning to message you. And I was like, I was so scared to message you. And they're always the people that are like, oh my God, I'm so glad you messaged me. And I'm like, here I was working it up in my head, you know? And maybe, you know, maybe you're not a Beachbody coach, but I'm sure that you can apply that to multiple things in your life, you know, of where you're like, ooh, should I do that? Should I go here? Should I say this? Because what if so-and-so sees it or la, 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 reads it or whatever, right? I just want you to say to yourself, who cares? If it's something you truly believe in your heart, in your soul, and it's you, say it, post it, do it. Feel that fear, recognize the ego coming in, and then do it anyway. And don't let it stop you. Because the more you push your ego to the side, the easier it is. The more you're like, yeah, ego, scoot, it'll be so much easier. And you feel free. Like, oh my God, I can actually do the things I want to do. Oh my God, I can actually say the things I want to say, rather than second guessing myself all the time. Oh my God, I actually trust myself that what I'm feeling is right, and I'm just going to say it, and I'm going to feel really good about it. I'm not going to second guess it. I'm not going to put it down. I'm not going to suppress it. I'm just going to feel it, and I'm going to do it. And it's maybe make my heart pound, and maybe I get a little sweaty, and maybe I get a little, but I said it. And then the more you say it, the easier it's going to become, just like anything else. The more you trust yourself, the less you trust that ego, the easier it's going to become. And you guys, there's nothing better than trusting yourself. There's nothing more freeing than trusting yourself. Okay? And that's what it is. I feel like our ego just constantly questions ourselves, right? Like, am I doing the right thing? Is that the right thing? Is so-and-so going to do this? Da, da, da. And I'm like, whoa, ego, chill out, get back in your circle. So one thing that like, okay, I'll leave you guys on this, but like, if you guys have ever seen Inside Out, there's a moment where Joy draws this circle and she makes sadness stay inside of it. She goes, don't leave your circle, right? So Derek and I do that with anger. Whenever like he gets angry or if I get angry, like we'll be like, why is your anger out of your circle? Like that's like something that we reference because he gets it, you know, like it's a, he's like, oh, I don't know. He's like, I don't know why my anger is out of my circle. And I'm like, well, how can we get it back in? How can we get your anger back in the circle? And so I think of that as like your ego, okay? How can you get your ego back in its circle? Draw a little circle in your mind and say, ego, don't get out of that circle, all right? I know you're here. It's cool, but you stay right there. You stay where I put you because I got shit to do over here, okay? So put ego in the circle and start focusing on you. Okay? Woo, good work today, ladies. I love that. That was cool. Cool video. Thank you so much, Amanda. I really appreciate that. And I love it. Like I said to you guys, like when somebody else can bring something in, I would have probably never found that video. I mean, maybe life would have eventually had me stumble upon it, but who knows? You know, you never know what you could bring here until you just send it to me and say, hey, I think this is a good idea. Right? You gotta listen, you gotta put your ego aside, because I'm sure all of you guys have found things that you're like, oh, this would be cool for Warrior Hour. Oh no, but I'm not gonna message Jenny about it. I'm not gonna bother her about it. I'm sure she's already got a schedule, right? But instead, what if you actually just sent it to me and said, hey, Jen, I think this would be cool for Warrior Hour. What if, you know? Don't trust that ego. That ego is a bitch, okay? Just remember that. All right, ladies, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thank you guys so much for coming today. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Tuesday, and tomorrow we will come and talk about that ego, okay? All right. Bye, ladies. Thank you.